It's starting. Any answer?
Thank you. Let me start the presentation. Hello everyone, welcome to the cloud computing session. So a minute while my machine loads. My name is Cyrus Gishuki and I'm going to be taking you guys through the cloud computing introduction to cloud computing session. And this is the slideshow. So let me resume the slideshow. So I'm going to be taking you guys through introduction to cloud computing with Azure. And my name is Cyrus Gishuki Ndirangu. My LinkedIn is Cyrus Gishuki Ndirangu. And the agenda of today is what is cloud computing, why you should use cloud computing, and what are the services offered in cloud computing, the advantages of cloud computing, and the cloud service models. There's going to be a Q&A session after the presentation and any other business afterwards. So what is cloud computing? We can see cloud computing is, let me scroll to the side. Cloud computing can be defined as a subscription-based service where you can obtain network storage space and computer resources. So for example, here we can see the service model where we can be able to see some of the services that are offered by the cloud: database storage, function hosting, data analysis, SQL storage, and so much more. So one way to think about cloud computing is considering your experience with email. So your email client, if it's Outlook or Gmail, they take care of housing all the hardware and software necessary to support your personal email account. So moving on, these are some of the icons depicting Azure services. So this is Azure Active Directory, the Azure API, Azure App Services, just a view of what Azure is capable to do for you. Azure Virtual Machines, there is even Azure VPN for your network applications, Azure Containers, Azure Cognitive Services for your AI, and so much more. So why would you use cloud computing? So one, we have lower operational costs. So according to Microsoft Docs, cloud computing is a way to rent compute power and a storage from someone else's data center. So you can treat cloud resources like how you would resources in your own data center. When you're using them, you give them back. You only bill for what you use. So that's actually a save for your business. Second, you run infrastructure more efficiently. So instead of maintaining your own data center, you rent them for free anytime that you need them. And when you're not using them, you're not charged. So the cloud provider takes care of maintaining the infrastructure and the operating systems, and sometimes the application, as we will come again to see later, according to the models. So this means lower operational expenses, meaning that your business is going to thrive while spending minimum. So second, you can scale according to your business's needs. So the cloud enables you to quickly solve your toughest business challenges and bring cutting-edge solutions to your users. So clients can get updates and new features on developed products instantly. So meaning that whenever there's an update that needs to be pushed to the client, and your developers are ready to push the solution, it is received and the application is gotten by the users almost instantly. So why move to the cloud? So the cloud helps you move faster and innovate in ways that were once nearly impossible. So I read a book somewhere that and a blog that before there was a system update, you had to push from the UI designer to from the client to the UI to the software engineer to the system administrator to the senior CTO, and it used to be a whole chain of process. But nowadays, because of the cloud, users are able to iterate quickly and develop solutions that were almost impossible. For example, when we were in the hackathon for Game of Learners, we were able to collaborate as teams in remote places, and we were able to create business features every week that were able to solve the problem that we were given to solve. So it's actually amazing what Azure can do for you. So in our ever-changing world, so two trends have emerged. So teams deliver new features to their users at record speeds, so almost immediately. And users expect an increasingly rich and immersive experience with their devices and with their software. So of course, the users that we get do not want just a basic application. And if the basic application is there, they require it to always be on time. And if there is an update, it will not tamper with any of what is going on. So we come here and we see, for example, software teams even deliver software updates continuously, sometimes with multiple releases within the same day. And you never know while you're at the comfort of your application. So this means that this is once a capability that has been given unto us that was once impossible. So augmented reality has changed the way you interact with the physical world. Household appliances are even beginning to act intelligently. So these technologies are just a few examples, and many of them are powered by Azure. So Azure can do a lot for you. So another reason to move to the cloud is to power your services and deliver innovative and novel user experiences more quickly. So the cloud provides on-demand access to one, a nearly limitless pool of raw compute storage and networking components. So whenever you need to scale up or scale down the cloud, Azure is able to do that for you. When we get deeper into the services that are offered by Azure, there is the Azure Load Balancer that is able to scale your applications up to infinity, maybe, let me say. So yeah, speech recognition and other cognitive services that help make your application stand out from the crowd. So if you want to incorporate text analysis, cognitive services, all those cool stuff with AI, Microsoft has pre-trained models that are just waiting for you to get the API key and use in your application. As we move on in the conference, you're going to see examples of student ambassadors and engineers who will work on projects that are going to be relevant to the use case that I've given you. So again, we're able to do analytics services that deliver telemetry data from your software and devices. A good example is the Power BI platform, whereby you're able to code your application with low code, so almost low to no code. So and you're able to get data in real time and not have the stress of writing the code. So it's actually amazing. So what are the services offered by cloud computing? So Azure's goal is to make sure running a business is easier and more efficient. So some of the services offered include, let me minimize this. Some of the services offered include compute power, e.g., for example, we have Linux servers for web apps. We'll be highlighting this in detail, whereby we'll be talking about some of the services in detail, whereby Azure really shines and can really help you in building your application. So storage, for example, Azure Blob Storage. If you want to store dump files, for example, images and text files and all JSON and relevant data that you want to store in your database, there's Cosmos DB, and it's available and easy to use and get started with. It's a NoSQL database, so we're going to be having more talks about this as the conference go along. We also have the MySQL also on cloud computing. So we have networking, such as secure connections between you and your cloud providers and your application. For example, if you have applications that require to talk to your private server, Azure has a way of doing this, and there's a way to configure this easily using Azure Active Directory. So analytics, just as we mentioned with Power BI, such as visualizing telemetry and performance data. So let's discuss in detail compute power. So when you're building solutions, you choose how you want your work to be done based on your need and resources. So this means if you want more control and responsibility, you create a virtual machine. So a virtual machine is an emulation of a computer. It includes an operating system and hardware that appears to the user as a physical running computer. So it's actually your computer in one of Azure's data centers. So you have an instance that is running with your own dedicated CPU, your own dedicated cores, your own dedicated RAM and memory at your command. So Azure runs your virtual machine instance on a physical server in one of their data centers. So there are other computing options that are actually popular and coming up that we're going to discuss, which are containers and serverless computing. So those are effects. So what is a container? So a container is like a virtual machine, except they don't require guest OS. So previously, like I mentioned, the virtual machine, it's just a computer, like a bare computer that you've been given. You have to install an operating system and configure everything for your application. But instead, we have containers which do not require a guest operating system. Instead, the application and all dependencies are packaged into a container. Then a standard runtime environment is used to execute the environment, the application, which means you have no control over managing the licenses of the software you run. For example, if you're going to be running Windows Server 2019 or Linux, Red Hat Enterprise, so you're going to be running your applications in a standard runtime environment. So this allows containers to start almost immediately because there's no OS to boot and initialize. This means when you're packaging your Docker container, you get to package your OS and your application into one tiny application that is minified, that can be able to run in an isolated execution environment for your application. So Docker containers. So Docker is the most popular platform for container orchestration. As you can see the image over here, there's a whale that seems to have some containers on top of it. So Docker is actually one of the most popular platforms where you can be able to manage your containers, and Azure offers Azure Containers and Azure Docker. So to provide an efficient, lightweight approach to the app deployment, because they allow different components of the application to be deployed independently into different containers. This means you can have your front end in one container, and it can be communicating to your API, which is in another container, which will be communicating to the database, which is in another container, which means which can be communicating to the admin dashboard, which is in another container. This ensures that your application are secure and they are orchestrated correctly, which means there is no service that is not being called unless it is being used. So we have that. And then there's serverless computing. So I had brought this image. So previously what we had was bare metal. You had to own servers in order to get access or maybe the power of the internet or the cloud per se. So here what you had to do was you had to code, you had to create the app container, you had to have the language runtime on board, you had to have the operating system, and you had to have the hardware. So then came cloud computing, and the scenario changed, and we were able to have a scenario where users can be able to get virtual machines. So here you're only responsible for the code, for the app container, and for the language runtime, and for the operating system. But then people thought we can make this easier. Then containers came along, whereby you are only responsible for the code and for the application container. This means that you will only be able to run your application within the container, and you will only be responsible for the orchestration of your containers. So moving on, we came to functions, which was serverless computing, whereby you're only responsible for the code. Azure, or your cloud computing provider, which I believe is Azure, will provide the runtime environment for your code. And what this is, it lets you run your code without creating, configuring, or maintaining a server. So the core idea is your application is broken into separate functions that run when triggered by some function. So this is ideal for automated tasks, e.g. a serverless process that sends email confirmation on sign up that is only called when a certain function is done. So this model is completely different from VMs and containers in that you only pay for processing time used by each executing function. So VMs and containers are charged even when they are idling, but functions are only charged when they are at work. So this architecture does not work for every application, but when the app logic can be separated into independent units, you can test them, update them, and launch them separately in microseconds, making this approach the fastest option for deployment. Meaning you are able even to organize your teams, for example, to deal with the searching, the liking, for example, the upvoting, the commenting, all of them will be able to deal with separate functions. And if there's an update, they're able to iterate and merge to the main application, and users will be able to get the updates. So this is actually amazing. So these are just some advantages. I'm going to provide the link whereby you can be able to get a detailed description of containers and functions. So here, a container image is a lightweight, standalone, executable package piece of software that includes everything needed to run it. So the code, the runtime, the system tools, and the system libraries and settings. But a function is just a block of code, ideally small and single purpose. They are coordinated, scheduled by a function as a service platform such as AWS Lambda, Azure Functions, and Google Cloud Functions. So this is just a detail to give you a clear picture of what serverless computing and what advantages have. For example, here we have with functions as a service or serverless, developers never think about infrastructure. So there's no ops model. So a container can contain multiple functions or just one function. So this is actually one thing to consider. And containers are preferred for complex software, which can run for several minutes or hours. Functions are preferred for simple applications. So when, for example, when we read that if you decouple your application into logics, for example, whereby people can only be able to call the function, for example, for certain use, for example, starting the camera, like Instagram Live, for example, yeah, I believe that can be a serverless function or a way. So containers are preferred for web scale apps that span across multiple servers, but functions are preferred for mobile or web apps which are invoked by a user, e.g. fetching a PDF file, or a specific filter on a file, a specific filter on a picture. So functions are a finer atomic unit of compute, runtime and storage data transferred. This allows refined consumption models. So if there are any questions, I'm going to take them after the session. So what are the advantages of cloud computing? So cloud-based applications employ a myriad of strategies. So one of them being high availability. So depending on the service level agreements that you choose, your cloud-based application can provide a continuous user experience with no apparent downtime when things go wrong. So for example, if you have your container schedule, if you have Azure, they will be able to roll back to versions that have an error and tell you the image that you tagged, for example, has an error, and we need you to roll back. We roll back to image tag maybe 1.0. because the new update had an error. So which means there's no downtime, no apparent downtime, even when things go wrong. So scalability. So let me minimize this. Scalability means that, let me minimize, sorry. So this means applications in the cloud can be scaled in two ways. So vertically, by increasing computing capacity, this is by adding RAM or CPUs to a virtual machine, or horizontally, computing capacity can be increased by adding instances of a resource, such as adding more virtual machines to your configuration. So there's a number of ways you can do this. Besides scaling your own application, you can also scale your application while it is in the cloud. So, and there is also an inbuilt feature called Azure Load Balancer. So Azure Load Balancer, once configured, can be able to scale your applications according to need. So automatically, you don't need to configure this. So elasticity, so cloud-based applications can be configured to take advantage of auto-scaling, just like we mentioned. So your applications will always have the resources they need. Okay, so let's go to the next one. So agility, cloud-based resources can be deployed and configured quickly as your application requirements change. Geo-distribution, applications and data can be deployed to regional data centers around the globe. So your customers always have the best performance in their region. Which means, for example, if most of your clients are in London, you can be able to make sure that your application has a location center or a host in the London area, meaning the people of London will receive no apparent downtime. Yeah, because So disaster recovery, by taking advantage of cloud-based backup services, data replication, and geo-distribution, you can deploy your application with the confidence that comes from knowing that your data is safe if disaster should occur. So let's go to the cloud deployment models. So if there are questions, I'll just check them in a few minutes. So the cloud deployment model is defined as where your data is stored and how your clients can access it. So there are three types. You can deploy and integrate cloud services into your app architectures. That is public cloud, private cloud, and hybrid cloud. So public cloud is the most common deployment. You have no hardware to manage or keep updates. Everything runs on your cloud provider's hardware. And private cloud, you can create your own environment in your data center and provide a self-service access to compute resources for users in your organization. So here you're completely responsible for the purchase and maintenance of your hardware and software services that you provide for your application. So a hybrid is a healthy mix of the previous models, allowing you to run your apps in the most appropriate locations. So what does this mean? So what are the advantages? So we have advantages is high scalability and agility of the public cloud. The second advantage is pay-as-you-go pricing, which means there is no capital expenditure costs. So this is actually a bonus key when you're planning to start on your startup. This is actually one of the best ways you can start your application. You have no hardware responsibilities. But also, you also require minimum technical knowledge to set up. So it's just like Heroku, you just need to start up almost immediately. So private cloud advantages, you can ensure configuration can support any scenario or legacy applications. So which means you are able to plan ahead for your applications. So you have control and responsibility over the security of your application. So you can meet strict security compliance or legal requirements. Also, you have integration with Azure Security Center. You can be able to monitor your application and see how it is moving along. So in the hybrid, some of the advantages that we have are keeping systems running and accessible that use out-of-date hardware and software, meaning if you have on-site application that use the private cloud, you are able to keep your systems running because you can use the updated software in the public cloud, and you can be able to give users a seamless integration and they would not be able to tell the transfer. You have flexibility with what you run locally versus in the cloud. And you use your own security, compliance, or legacy scenarios where you need to completely control the environment. What are the disadvantages? So in the public cloud, the specific security requirements are not met. Some government policies, industry standards, and legal requirements cannot be met in the public cloud. So when you're thinking about handling personal data, you cannot manage hardware since there's no ownership. And in the private cloud, some disadvantages is higher capital expenditure costs as compared to the public cloud, owning equipment limits, which means you can only own as much as you can spend, and they require skilled IT professionals and expertise hard to find. The hybrid can be the most expensive model since it involves some CapEx upfront and more complicated to set up and manage. So we have some models here, and cloud service models, and Intel, the processor, they state that cloud computing has become an essential part of enterprise technology, helping you deliver applications and IT as a service to your end users with ease and efficiency. Today, one of the most important parts of your cloud strategy is choosing the right cloud service models for your organization. The top three include infrastructure as a service and platform as a service and software as a service. So what this means is infrastructure as a service. Let me just decipher this, or I can see we have 3 minutes left. This enables a server to in the cloud. This enables a server in the cloud or a virtual machine instance to have complete control over. A platform, however, allows you to avoid the expense and complexity of buying, installing, and managing the software licenses. And the software as a service is the largest and most popular cloud computing platform used today. It's continually growing and replacing the traditionally devised software with web-based alternative. So the cloud tenant only needs to provide their data to the application managed by the cloud provider. For example, Office 365 on Netflix is a good example of a software as a service. And the platform as a service, you manage your applications and services you develop, while the cloud provider, Azure, typically manages everything else, e.g. the Azure App Service. The infrastructure as a service, it will require operating system management as well as disk and networking attributes of the said virtual machine. This is a great solution to addressing the need of multiple applications running on the same virtual machine or fulfilling third-party software. So here you can see you have most control over the platform, and here you have the application is the only thing you need to maintain, and here you have the least control and the least managerial responsibility. So let's move forward. So here you can see the hierarchy of responsibility. So here's the software as a service where you have the least responsibility to manage, the platform as a service where you kind of have some responsibility, and the infrastructure as a service where you have a big portion to manage. So moving onwards, thank you so much for joining the session. I think this will be the Q&A. Apologies for joining the session late, but thank you for being with us in the session. I'm going to stop sharing my screen, but a link for the presentation will be provided for any reference. You can find me through my LinkedIn. Thank you.
Hello, thank you, Cyrus, for that wonderful session. Right, so if you check the chat, you see a feedback form which you're all to fill, and if you fill it, you can be in a raffle draw to win cool swag. So encourage everyone here to fill that form and move. So thank you once again for attending this session. You can also participate in the social media challenge by posting the session you have been to and asking for shares, like Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, any social media. Right. So you can move on to the other sessions now.
Thank you so much. Apologies again for joining late.
So we'll end the session now.